tonight's Brand X Reviews Halloween special, which is due to go out on Friday. If you're watching this on Friday, that's the plan. We're going to talk about something a little bit different with this one. It's not particularly horror film related. It's more kind of pop culture event. How would you describe this in a nutshell?
I mean, I think that's the best way of summing it up, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't know how much I can really add because I am not actually a real person. I'm just like an artificial intelligence.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because some people, they'll sort of see the Max Headroom thing as familiar, but they won't know where they've seen it from. Maybe like Back to the Future too, because there's a similar sort of like CGI thing in that in there. But anyway, basically, the story is, and I'd only heard about this for the first time quite recently, watching Minty Comedic Arts. He was talking about this strange incident that happened. It's kind of scary and creepy, so we'll include it as in part of the Halloween special. Basically, it was
people out.
Yeah, it is creepy. It's kind of jarring when you watch it, but we're going to show you the footage in a minute. But basically what happened is it was similar to what the Joker always does on Batman, where he interrupts like local TV broadcasts and like starts goofing around. This guy in what's known as Max Headroom mask. Max Headroom was like an MTV character played by Matt Frewer?
Basically, yeah, it was kind of like, I don't think it was MTV actually. I think I was wrong on that one. But yeah, he was supposed to be like the gist of the character was he was like a malfunctioning like early AI created in like the 80s, and he'd like interrupt like TV shows and be like, talking to people and then glitching out and stuff. And
yeah,
it was like a comedy skit basically.
And it was British, wasn't it? I think the Max Headroom thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So appropriately, somebody thought it would be funny, and somebody who had the knowledge and the ability to interrupt some broadcasts in Chicago back in 1987, and they did it twice. Now, I'll get the specifics up, and then I'll show you the actual footage of what happened afterwards, and we'll have a chat about it. But basically, what you're watching is when he interrupted the first show, which was a news... sports report on the local news on WGN TV, which is around about 9 o'clock. And he cut in for about 25 seconds. The audio was so bad you couldn't hear what he was saying, if he was saying anything at all. And it was basically him doing an impression of Max Headroom. He's wearing a mask that was very similar, and there's not really much going on. And he's kind of like jostling himself around. Yeah, it's funny.
And then like talking like a really glitchy way, like he's kind of like buffering or something.
Yeah, and then it comes back to the local sports report, and they were like, "Whoa, what the hell just happened?" And that's kind of the end of that. But then 2 hours later, on a different channel, but it was again, it was in Chicago. It was a PBS station, WTTW. And interestingly for you, because you're a big Doctor Who fan, it was like a 10-year-old episode at the time. So it had been an episode from 1977.
Yeah, they were watching the horror of Topher's Cock. I mean, the horror of Fang Rock.
Yeah. And
yeah, it was like an old Tom Baker. It's a pretty good one as well.
And he interrupted that, and he was on for what, like about a minute and a half, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, as far as they know how he did it, it's basically like somehow they had like a more powerful signal than the actual TV station because they were closer to like the broadcast antennas, so they were kind of like, crowding out the other signal, if you get me.
Yeah. So we'll show the footage anyway. So that's basically what happened. And then after that, it just kind of came back. But we'll talk about what we're going to do is we're going to show you the raw footage. I'll see if I get some with subtitles in so you can see what's being said, or what we think is being said anyway. And then we're going to show you.
It's very hard to kind of hear what he's saying, even when you've got like the actual original, like, because we've got recordings of it.
Yeah.
But it's like very bad quality, and he's kind of like talking weird and stuff.
He's talking a load of bollocks anyway. So it'd be like us going, "Yes, the twofer," and people would be like, "What the hell? The go for what?" It'd be like that. But anyway, we'll show you the footage. So we're going to show you the raw footage of both interruptions, and then some local I think some national news report clips as well after that, just so you can get an idea what it was about, what happened. Then we're going to cut back to us, and we're going to have a bit of a talk about it. So I'll just edit this through. One sec.
Defense, which hadn't put up a sack in 12 quarters, finally did.
So yeah, the football news was playing, then all of a sudden the screen went blank for a few seconds.
And then this cut in as it's about to start. This guy comes on. As you can hear, there's no actual audio other than this buzzing noise, so I can kind of freely talk over this because there's not much to hear other than that noise. Now, it's filmed in kind of a weird way, like Max Headroom, the actual TV character was. I don't know how they achieved that. And then it went off. It got the signal back.
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild. So what we're going to do is start over from the top.
So that was that, and then 2 hours later, during a 10-year-old rerun of an episode of Doctor Who, he comes back.
As far as I can tell, a massive...
So yeah, that was it. Nobody knows who did it, why they did it, how they did it. Just obviously they had a transmitter, some kind of antenna that was more powerful and closer to the place where it needed to be to overpower the signal briefly there. And they got away with it as far as I'm aware. Now, I'm just going to show you 1 minute's worth of news footage from when this happened, shortly after. I do have a lot more news footage, and I'm going to put that right at the end of the video, because otherwise it's going to just go on for long. So I'm going to show 1 minute's worth of footage. We're going to come back. Myself and the core are going to discuss this further, and then the rest of it will come after that.
BXR, starting first on WGN-TV at 9:14 Sunday night during a sportscast.
12 quarters finally did.
Take some pretty sophisticated microwave equipment operating in the broadcast auxiliary frequency bands and a significant amount of power.
About 2 hours later, the video pirate struck again. This time, the target was a science fiction broadcast on PBS affiliate WTTW. And this time, it wasn't 25 seconds long. It ran for almost a minute and a half. By this time, the pirate had managed to insert audio as well, along with a display of a marital aid and a portion of his or her anatomy.
So yeah, that was the footage. As you can see, it was a bit kind of weird and jarring, and some people actually thought it was funny, some people really didn't. But yeah, just really weird how they managed to do it. Obviously, at the time, they were talking about it being a federal crime, and they never caught who did it, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was mainly just like, once they'd taken down the equipment, like, how do you prove who it is? And like I say, it's such bad quality, it's like, you couldn't, like, recognize the voice or anything.
Yeah. It's a very strange kind of thing to do as well. And some of the stuff that he's talking about, it's like when he's talking about, oh, my piles or something, or my files, it's like, the hell's he talking about?
I mean, some of it does sort of make sense, because he's basically, like, referencing at one point Catching the Wave, which is actually, like, from...
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, well, I think it was Pepsi, actually. These adverts that, like, actually had, like, the actual character Max Headroom in it going, like, you know, catch the wave and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But he's got a can of Pepsi, and it was Coca-Cola was the advert or something. So I don't know if that was like a jab at that. He makes some reference to "I Can Still See the X" and starts humming this tune from a cartoon from the 50s called Clutch Cargo. Very random.
Apparently, I Can See the X is like a reference to the last episode of that. So
yeah. And then there's the bit at the end is a bit creepy because somebody pointed out whether it is that's like swatting him on the arse. Is that even a real arse? I don't know. You can't tell. But whoever's doing
you are the
that,
expert in arses. You did rape Topher at the sink that one time. So.
Well, yeah, there was that. But whoever's like done that, whoever's doing the swatting, if you actually look at it looks like it could be a kid or or just a very small like person. I don't know. Somebody made a point of that. I don't know, but when you look at it, it's like, yeah, it does look a bit that way. The person that's doing it, they look very kind of small. But I don't know, you get some small lasses, I guess. So yeah, like I said, the theories were that, like you say, they just had a really powerful booster, and I think that's what happened. That's why they were able to go on longer right at the end of it, because the theory, well, not just a theory, it's the reality of it, is that because the second interruption was quite late at night, they didn't have the people in to like, all hands on deck, like kick that signal out of here kind of thing. And that's kind of why they got away with it for an extra 9 minutes.
I mean, then again, if somebody wasn't like carefully watching like this old episode of Doctor Who, like they wouldn't know they'd been hacked. It's like when it's in the middle of a news broadcast, like they would presumably be paying like a reasonable amount of attention to that.
Yeah. Obviously, you're a big fan of Doctor Who. You've done videos on the channel before. Is this ever anything that comes up in like, Doctor Who conversations about like old memories of the show or anything?
Not really. I think it was a bit ticked. It's kind of like a local, and it was a rerun and something.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this before. Till, like I said, Minty Comedic Arts did a video about it. Now, when you kind of look back and watch like Tim Burton's Batman from '89, this was like 2 years after. And you've got the Joker doing similar stuff. I know he did it like in the comics, and he even did it in like the '60s series. Did the Joker? It was what he was known for. But it does kind of tie in with that era, But it's a mystery. Somebody somewhere must know who did this. I mean, this was like 35 years ago, nearly. Were these people still alive?
Yeah, I was going to say like we can't even like say that for sure.
Yeah, because it'd be quite old now anyway, and I think you'd just admit it after all these years, wouldn't you? You'd want to take the credit for it, I suppose, but
it's one of those things like nowadays people would think, oh, it's hacking, so it was like typing away the computer. Like, no, it was literally a case of like they had a fucking signal antenna somewhere.
Yeah, it was like physical equipment. Just physical equipment. All you need is like a very powerful antenna. Get parked nearby, have the ability to do it. Because I think the actual antenna was on the top of the Sears Tower, wasn't it?
I know it was like a couple of tall buildings in Chicago. I don't know exactly which ones.
Because from memory, my kind of not very extensive knowledge of American buildings, all 9/11 stuff aside, the Sears Tower was one of the tallest. I seem to remember hearing one time it's like the next tallest after the original Trade Center back in the day. Or it was close to it anyway, to being one of the highest. So they would have had to have been in an equally fairly high up building to do this. You would have thought, depending on the power of the.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they just needed to be closer because that was it. They were kind of like transmitting from the broadcast center to these towers and then off to other places. So if you were a lot closer to the towers,
yeah,
you would be able to like. Can I get your signal in first, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. But
presumably, it took a while for somebody to notice and then boost the power and like, wait, what the fuck's going on here? Like,
yeah, but was it somebody that was maybe disgruntled, like a former employee of like the broadcasting industry, or was it just some random person trying to impress somebody with all this? You would have thought it would have
could just been like a random like fucking Max Headroom fanboy who just thought like this would be funny, because that was kind of like the thing of Max Headroom. He'd like kind of like it was almost like a virtual like host for like things, and he'd like basically like hijack into the system and like like add his thoughts to like whatever you're watching, you know,
Yeah.
and then like go away again, you know, like, you know, almost like, I want to say like the crypt keeper or something like that. He was like a host for things.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that was like, you know, the thought behind it, like rather than, you know, fucking cosplay or something. This was what they had back in the 80s, like, you know, we'll hijack this thing and pretend to be like Max Headroom.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was also it was the guy that played Max Headroom. It was Matt Frewer, who I think my earliest memory of him being in anything was in Honey I Shrunk the Kids. But he was also I know he was in Taken as well. What, Taken?
Taken.
As in the TV series, the mini-series from the early 2000s about aliens and stuff. I remember he was in that. He's been in quite a few things. He was in the Stand as well as Stephen King, the original like 6-hour like TV mini-series or whatever it was. But yeah, like I say, very kind of creepy as well. That's why I wanted to include it on this Halloween special, because I don't know, nothing particularly nasty about it. It was just, you know, just damn creepy.
I've been waiting for like an episode of like a TV show to come on, and then suddenly that had happened like in the middle of the night. I would be like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, some very strange things. But yeah, like I say, with that local news footage that we were showing, some people thought it was funny as well, and then other people are a bit annoyed because they'd missed Doctor Who when they were wanting to record it, because this was before you could buy like tapes and DVDs and stuff of TV shows quite well as prominently as you can today, anyway. So yeah, that would have annoyed you if that was like bang in the middle of your episode of Doctor Who. So yeah, anyway, well, not much else to say about it really. Just it'd be really interesting to find out who was behind it, but it's one of those things we're just never going to know.
I mean, I think at this point, if anybody was going to come forward with it, they would have done by now.
Yeah, because the thing, you think if you were going to do this, you'd want people to know about it. If you know that it was you that did it, or at least I would anyway. I know they were even like threatening like jail time if they caught him or whatever, because it was like a federal crime, and that the feds were after him. But even then, pretty sure you could get away with it after all this time. I don't think they'd. I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, well, that's pretty much all we can say. I mean, unless anyone's got any other ideas or any theories or anything, that's pretty much it. So tomorrow we've got another couple of videos. There might be a bonus video coming up as well. I think tomorrow's is just going to be me. I'm just going to be talking about something by myself tomorrow, and then Halloween night itself, Sunday. The core will return, and we're not going to say what we're talking about yet, because we're just going to like drop the video. There might be a bonus video on Halloween as well, but we'll obviously drop these things on the night. So unless there's anything else from the core.
Well, I mean, Buff was very offended when he saw this, as he was kind of worried that the Catch the Wave was directed at him.
You have to work it out for joking as well.
Well, I mean, would it really be us if we didn't?
Yes. Right. Well, yeah. Well, we'll leave that on that note anyway. So, right. Unless you've got anything else, I'm not doing. Don't want to cut you off.
No. Like I say, I can't think of anything to add.
That pretty much signifies the end of the Topher jizing and Buff's face. That signifies the end of the video. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Let us know what you think in the comments. Check back tomorrow night, 7:00. And then lead on to Halloween night itself on Sunday, 7:00 as well. We'll see you there.
So that was that for tonight's video. As I say, something a little bit alternative, not horror movie related, but damn creepy as hell. Now I'm just going to cut back and show you some news footage, as I say, a bit of more of an extended look at some of the news footage, because there's too much to sandwich right in the middle of the video, to be honest, but it's still interesting, so I'm including it at the end of the video here. Now check back tomorrow night, 7:00, and then again on Sunday night, Halloween itself at 7, and we're going to have some more videos. We're going to get back into talking about actual horror movies. Thank you very much.
For 2 acts of video piracy. Last night, someone broke into regular programming here on Channel 9 and on Chicago's public broadcasting station. As Larry Roderick reports, the first interruption took place during last night's 9 o'clock news.
Sports anchor Dan Rowan had just started his Sunday night Bears report when the screen suddenly went black, then came back on with a new unruly presence, a man wearing a Max Headroom mask. We had been taken over by a video pirate for a short time, until technicians here changed microwave channels between the studio and the transmitter and knocked him off the air.
And apparently somebody with some microwave equipment was able to interfere with our signal going to the Hancock transmitter.
Now, this is not just anybody off the street. He has to have an electronic expertise of some level, right?
Yes, he does. It takes very sophisticated equipment to do this at a significant power level. So this isn't something that just anyone would be able to accomplish.
But Channel 9 wasn't alone in its Max Headroom appearance. There was even a longer episode on Channel 11, public broadcasting.
Only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
A little after 11 p.m., Doctor Who was knocked out by the Max look-alike, who pitched a soft drink, then performed a series of antics that station officials found less than humorous, before the pirate himself pulled the plug.
Fortunately, it was a self-destruct mechanism. It was beyond our control. We now have already implemented steps whereby we could take something like that off the air immediately if it were to occur again. It did, of its own volition, go off the air, as I say, after about a minute and a half.
It annoyed some viewers.
No, I just thought it would be just a slight mess-up, but that in the middle of the tape, it's going to be... We're going to have to tape over it.
I got so upset that I wanted to bust the TV set. I really did.
Angered others.
Somebody wants to get attention, what do? They go break into a television broadcast. Just to get attention, like throwing a brick through your window, so to speak.
Okay.
It's not too bright, really.
Well, some thought it was a lot of fun. So what did you think about the whole thing?
Very, very funny.
It may seem rather humorous, but there is more to it than that. For when this person is caught, he or she will face both civil and criminal penalties.
It is very serious, and we'd like to inform anybody who's involved in this type of thing that it is serious and that we will take every step that we can to find out who is doing it. And once we have determined that, we will make sure that the full extent of the law is carried out.
Meanwhile, Channel 9 engineers say they have taken steps to prevent further appearances of the mock Max. This is Larry Roderick, WGN News.
Well, the FCC says last night's piracy was the first of its kind in Chicago.
Another one is on tonight, this one for the video pirates who managed to scramble Chicago airwaves. The pirates interrupted WGN and WTTW programming with a show of their own. Our Mike Kirsch has more.
Channel 11's Doctor Who was unexpectedly knocked off the TV screen last night by a broadcast pirate disguised as Max Headroom. The wacky and at times perverse TV surprise came shortly after 11 o'clock, lasting about a minute and a half. The same thing happened at WGN's 9 o'clock news broadcast earlier in the evening.
Someone wants to get into your house, they can find a way to do that. And I guess likewise, if someone wants to interfere with your signal, they can find a way to do that.
The FCC says the pirates were able to use stronger microwave signals to override the television signals which are transmitted from the Hancock and Sears towers.
Like to inform anybody involved in this kind of thing that there's a maximum penalty of $100,000, 1 year in jail, or both.
The broadcast pirate who broke into HBO programming about a year and a half ago and threatened HBO with this message was caught by the FCC and fined $5,000 and was put on 1 year probation. The FCC says the wise guys who pulled off this latest stunt are in very big trouble. Mike Kirsch, the 10 o'clock news.
The FCC says or warns that should the pirate...
Video pirate who raided 2 television broadcasts last night first hit WGN. Its signal was jammed during the news in the middle of the Bears highlights. The pirate mimicked the Max Headroom character that you see on TV.
It takes some pretty significant equipment, technical equipment, and some knowledge of broadcast frequencies, microwave frequencies, and a lot of power.
Less than 2 hours later, Channel 11's broadcast of Doctor Who was disrupted. The 90-second interruption ended with the video pirate's bare bottom being spanked with a fly swatter. But his punishment will be far worse if he is caught. The maximum penalty is 1 year in jail and a fine. It says $100. I think it is a higher fine.